Hello, welcome to SMT FX. In today's video we will be covering ChoCh. So what is a ChoCh? ChoCh means change of character, and this is when the character of the market is changing direction. So if we have a bullish trend, kind of similar to what we've got here, we're making new highs. We've got a higher high here, then we've got a higher high here. We're currently in a bullish trend, and then what a ChoCh is the change of character where we are turning bearish. But there's specific price action we look for when this occurs, and this is what we're going to cover today. As we can see, we've got some demand zones pushing up here. So we've got this one here, we've had an impulsive move, break of structure, okay, and then we've also got another demand zone here, which we shall mark up. Let me just drag this across. This one's had a mitigation, as you can see. So we've got a push up, created a new high, a pullback, push up again. We've broken this high and created a new high and mitigation of this demand zone here. So we're currently in a bullish trend. So let's advance price a little bit further on. Okay, so we're creating new highs. So here we can see, as we're creating new highs, we've broken this structure. So let's mark this as a break of structure. Okay, then we've had a pullback, but then we've pushed up again and we've broken this high here. Now it's not a very significant high, but it's still a high and it's still been broken. So let's mark that up as a break of structure as well. Okay, and then obviously we've got this smaller high within this area, but we'll focus more on this break of structure just there. So let's advance price forward a bit more. Okay, so we're now getting a little bit of bearish pressure coming in now. Right, so at this point we've had this break of structure. This zone here, we've got this demand zone. We've got this demand zone and it's failed to maintain control. Now what's happened here is we've now had a push to the downside. We've broken past this demand zone and we've broken past this low. So this is where we get our first indication of a change of character. So here's our change of character. We've broken the higher low. Now at this point, this is where I change this break of structure to say ChoCh. The reason I do this is because this break of structure is needed before this break of structure here. So it's these two together that create the ChoCh. Now, I do get quite a lot of people in my DMs saying, oh, but that's just a break of structure. Yes, it's correct. That is just a break of structure. But this is required to make this valid for a ChoCh. That's why I label both of these as ChoCh. Okay, doesn't really matter what you label it as. You can label it as Dave, Malcolm, whatever, and it's still going to mean the same thing. So we've got this break of structure here. The push up, this demand zone has failed, and we've then had some bearish momentum push past there. Now what we'll be looking for from here, we're going to be looking at the last supply that caused this zone to fail. Now we could be looking at this zone here, but the reason I don't like this is there's a little bit of imbalance just here. It's very insignificant. However, this is more the extreme zone, so I will be looking for a potential short from this zone here. As you can see, I include this wick because there's a little bit of price action within there that still had a bit of bullish momentum in there before we then continued pushing to the downside. So from here, this is where I'm going to be looking at for a short trade. Right, so from here, let me just see how wide this. Right, so my minimum pip stop loss is about 2.5. Now the range of this supply zone is almost my entire stop loss. So in this case, what I will be doing is I will use the GAN box or the fib box, it doesn't matter which one you use, and I'll mark out 50% of this zone, and then I'll be looking to take the entry on the 50% of this zone. So it gives me a little bit more breathing space if the trade does get tapped in. Now if we don't do that and you get a little bit of a push past the supply zone, you may get tagged out and the trade would end up going without you. So this is what I do just to ensure that I can stay in the trade. Now if you followed me enough, then you'll realise I tend to have, for my scalping trades, a 1 to 5 target. It's not very often I swing trade or go any higher than 1 to 5, but for this example we're going to stick with that. So let's advance price forward. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, right, so we've been tagged in. Now as you can see, if we did have the entry right on the edge of the order block here, or right on the edge of the supply zone, we would have been taken out. So let's just drop this down and I'll show you what I mean. So there we go, we would have been taken out. And this is the reason why, if my supply zone or the order block I'm trading from is about the same size as my stop loss or wider, then that's when I'll look for taking an entry around the center of the supply zone. So let's keep advancing price forward a bit more. So we've been tagged in, and there we go. We've then had a break of this low, so we are now showing that we've got some bearish momentum in the market. So we've got this low broken, and we've now got a bit of bearish momentum going on. Okay, as you can see, the trade has then hit TP. So the previous example was a scalp trade, and the scalp trades are a little bit more risky than your intraday or your swing trades. So in this example I'm going to show you a trade that Neith, our co-founder and lead coach, took. So we've got this supply zone just here. Now if I just jump up to the 1 hour time frame, what you'll see this is we've got a wick. Now we are using the entirety of the wick here. Okay, we've looked at this high here as inducement, so we've got liquidity sat above this high. Now let's just drop back down to the 15-minute time frame and we'll show you why we were looking at this zone. Now this trade was taken on our MT5 account. We sent in the screenshots in and you'll be able to see the exact entry that we took for this trade. So what we were looking at is we've got this last buy candle before the impulsive sell. Now this area was still unmitigated, so this is what made us interested in looking at this area for a potential trade. Now just because the area was tapped straight into, which you can see further along here, we didn't take a trade straight off of it. Now what we were looking for is, as this area gets mitigated, we want to see the correct price action on the lower time frames. So let's have a look further down. Let's drop down to the 1 minute. So what we've got going on here is we've had our break of structure into our supply zone, but the supply zone has then been pushed straight through. Now after this we've seen it's rejected. It's had two pushes of this candle, these two candles here, it's tried to push up, and we've then had some bearish momentum push down. However, this zone did not break the last low that caused the break of structure. So let's mark this out as a demand zone, because this is important for when we discover that price is then pushing bearish. Now as you can see here, we've had some momentum pushing down. It's paused around here, we've pushed up, and what's happened is we've then created this 1 minute supply zone, which has then been the cause of breaking past this demand zone. So now this demand is now broken and not respected. We are now starting to see some respect to the supply in the markets. Now moving forward, it's not very often we like to go down to the seconds time frame, because when we show this to members or the wider community, it starts to get a little bit noisy and a bit confusing for people, but it's something that we do use if we feel the need to. Now since we've had this 1 minute supply zone here, we wanted to have extra confirmation that we are going to continue going bearish. So what we can then do is, I think we drop down to, we'll drop down to the 15 seconds and we can see a ChoCh. Okay, so we've had, this was our first break of structure, we've pushed up, we've created this low here, and then prices then pushed down, broken this low, and then we're looking for where we could enter the trade. Now this wasn't a 15-second entry, this was actually a 5-second entry. So when we drop down further, let me just bring our bar replay to here. We can then see on the 5 second, the reason we looked at this zone is the zone that caused the ChoCh was a inside bar, and this is the candle that we entered from. So if you want to have a look on our Instagram page, you'll be able to see that this was the zone or the entry that we took. Okay, so from this point we had a limit order set. We've got a little bit of inducement here, but this is obviously a very noisy bit of inducement going on here on the 5 second time frame, so we're not going to start over marking things here, because when we start concentrating on the 1 minute time frame, things are just going to get really crowded and messy on the charts. So from here, let's pop back up to the 1 minute time frame. Okay, so we've had our flip here, we've then had a 1 minute supply zone created. Once we've had a mitigation of that 1 minute supply zone, we've then had a 5 second, well, we've had a seconds time frame ChoCh, and that's when we've looked to enter the trade. So let's zoom out here a little bit and let's advance price, and we can show you what we had going on. So I believe it was around when this low was broken just here. This is when we set our stop loss to entry. So around here, the trade actually peaked for us around about 20R. Now, because this is on our SMT account, me and Neith were discussing that the trade was running, you know, past 15R, and we were targeting the imbalance. As you can see here, there's quite a bit of strong imbalance. However, we then decided to close manually. We could have left it running longer, and eventually the trade did hit our TP. However, both myself and Neith, we don't worry about getting FOMO. Okay, you know, at the end of the day, this is a 16.8R trade. So when we closed it manually, we closed at about 16R, and as you can see, if we keep advancing price further on, price did end up pushing down to our target. Let's drop this up to the 3 minute, for example. So we've had a bit of a pullback here, and then we continue pushing further down. Now, we're not going to sit there try and drag the chart all the way down to the bottom and say we've caught a 50 to 100R trade or something crazy. It's not very often we hit trades like 16 to 20R, alright? They are possible. They're not as common as most Instagram traders will try and make you believe. But this is one of those few examples where we did catch one of these trades, and it worked out very well. So just a quick recap on what we look for a ChoCh. Now, as you can see here in this example, we've got a bearish, we've got some bearish order flow. Okay, so we've got some lower lows forming, and we've got lower highs forming. Now, we've had the last break of structure. Like I said earlier on in the video, this is marked as ChoCh. However, this is just a break of structure. Now, when this changes to a ChoCh is when we then have the push up and we've broken our lower high, and this is what's indicating the change of character. So this is then marked as a change of character, and then we change this to ChoCh. You don't have to copy that. You could sit there and argue that it's just a break of structure. You could call it anything you like, okay? Like I said, you can call it Dave, Malcolm, whatever, Julie, doesn't matter. It still means the same thing. We've still got a break of structure here, and then we've got a break of structure in the opposite direction. It's these two combined is what causes this entry model to work. Okay, so with that push up, we're then looking to enter off the order block or the demand zone that is created from this movement. So if you found this video useful, please consider liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. We have our Instagram links in the bio for the SMC FX page and our co-founder and lead coach, Neith. And let us know in the comment section below if you ever used this entry model before.